All right, folks, gather around the digital campfire. Tonight, we're diving into the wild world of constitutional law. Think of it like the instruction manual for America, except it was written centuries ago by dudes who wore wigs unironically. This document, as flawed and open to interpretation as it might be, lays out the ground rules. It tells us who gets to do what when they get to do it, and most importantly, how it can all be challenged when someone inevitably oversteps their bounds. Because, let's be honest, if there's one thing humans are good at, it's finding loopholes. The Constitution tries its best to anticipate our shenanigans, but even it can't account for every bizarre scenario. That's where constitutional law comes in. It's the ongoing debate, the legal back and forth, the constant tug of war over what this document actually in practice. And trust me, it's a lot more exciting than it sounds. Think of it like legal fan fiction, but instead of wizards and vampires, we've got politicians and judges. Buckle up, because things are about to get constitutionally interesting. So you elected these fine folks to Congress, and you're probably thinking, get to work, you bunch of overpaid interns. But what does work really mean for them? And work they do, mostly by arguing about what they're even allowed to argue about. It's like a never-ending debate club where the rules are constantly being rewritten. You see, the Constitution gives Congress specific powers, kind of like that friend who always insists on ordering for the table. They have a menu, but they also have the freedom to interpret it. The necessary and proper clause is their way of saying, hold my beer, and expanding their reach beyond what's explicitly written. It's like a magic wand that lets them stretch their powers. Need to establish a national bank? Sure, this was one of the first big tests of their powers, and it set a precedent for future actions. Want to regulate what farmers grow? Go for it. This isn't just about crops, it's about controlling the economy and ensuring stability. But hold your horses, Congress. That doesn't mean you get to run wild. There are checks and balances in place to keep things from getting out of hand. The Commerce Clause lets them regulate interstate commerce, which sounds straightforward, but it's become the legal equivalent of a clown car. Somehow they keep finding ways to cram more and more stuff in there. From regulating the internet to healthcare, it's a catch-all for modern governance. Of course, the Supreme Court is there to occasionally remind Congress that they can't just declare open season on whatever they want. They act as the referees in this complex game of power. Cases like United States v. Lopez, where they tried to ban guns near schools, showed even Congress has limits. This case was a landmark decision that reined in their powers under the Commerce Clause. The lesson here, just because you can legislate the crap out of something doesn't mean you always should. It's a delicate balance of power, responsibility, and restraint. The framers of the Constitution designed this system with the hope that it would adapt over time, but also that it would be used wisely. They knew that too much power in one place could lead to tyranny. Today we see this balance play out in various ways, from debates over healthcare to discussions about internet privacy. Each issue tests the limits of congressional power and the resilience of our democratic system. So next time you see Congress in action, remember, it's not just about making laws, it's about deciding what they can even make laws about, and that's a debate that will never truly end. The ongoing dialogue between Congress, the Supreme Court, and the American people is what keeps our democracy vibrant and ever-evolving. It's a complex dance of power, interpretation, and, yes, a bit of chaos. And while it might seem messy at times, it's this very messiness that ensures no single entity has too much control. It's the essence of checks and balances, a system designed to protect our freedoms. So let's appreciate the complexity and the beauty of this system. After all, it's what makes America, America. Next up, let's talk about the president. The Constitution gives them a fancy hat and some vague instructions, which basically boils down to be the president, but don't be a tyrant. Oh, and good luck with all the international stuff. Easy, right? Domestically, the president can issue executive orders, which are basically like strongly worded memos that everyone has to pretend are laws sometimes. They can also pardon turkeys, which is far less legally ambiguous, but equally absurd. When it comes to foreign policy, the president gets to play commander-in-chief, which sounds super cool until you realize it means making life-or-death decisions. This power has expanded over the years with cases like and showing the limits and dangers of executive authority. The takeaway: the president has a lot of power, but it's not unlimited, And just like your friend who insists on ordering for the table, sometimes they need to be reminded that sharing is caring. Section 4. Judicial review, because someone has to play referee. Now let's talk about the referees of this whole shebang, the judiciary. The judiciary is like the umpire in a baseball game, ensuring that everyone plays by the rules. They are the ones who step in when there's a dispute, making sure that the game is fair and just. They don't get to make the rules, and their uniforms are even worse than Congress. But their role is crucial. Without them, the game would descend into chaos, with everyone interpreting the rules in their own way. The judiciary ensures that there is a consistent and fair application of the law. Their job? To interpret the Constitution and tell everyone else when they're screwing up, which, let's be honest, is most of the time. They are the guardians of the Constitution, ensuring that its principles are upheld and that no one oversteps their bounds. This power of judicial review wasn't explicitly in the Constitution. They kind of just gave themselves that power in like a kid declaring themselves the winner of their own imaginary game. It all started with the landmark case of Marbury v. Madison in 1803, where Chief Justice John Marshall asserted the power of the judiciary to review and nullify unconstitutional laws. But hey, it's worked out so far, mostly. The judiciary has played a pivotal role in shaping the nation, from civil rights to economic regulations. Their decisions have far-reaching implications, affecting the lives of millions of people. The Supreme Court is the final word on legal matters, and their decisions, remind us that even states have to follow the Constitution. They are the ultimate arbiters, ensuring that the federal and state governments adhere to the principles enshrined in the Constitution. They might not always get it right, looking at you, Dred Scott decision, but they're the best we've got. The judiciary is not infallible, and there have been instances where their decisions have been controversial or even outright wrong. However, the system is designed to allow for corrections and adjustments over time. The courts are constantly grappling with new challenges and interpreting old laws in a modern context. With the rapid pace of technological advancements and societal changes, the judiciary must adapt and find ways to apply centuries-old principles to contemporary issues. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, except the peg is the internet and the hole is a 200-year-old document. The judiciary's task is to bridge the gap between the past and the present, ensuring that the timeless principles of the Constitution remain relevant in today's world. The judiciary's role is not just about interpreting laws, but also about protecting individual rights and freedoms. They are the last line of defense against tyranny and oppression, ensuring that the government does not overreach its authority. In conclusion, the judiciary may not be perfect, but it is an essential part of our democratic system. They are the referees who ensure that the game is played fairly, and their decisions have a profound impact on our society. So the next time you see a judge in their black robe, remember the crucial role they play in upholding justice and the rule of law. Section 5. Individual rights, where the Constitution gets personal. This is where the grand ideas of the Constitution intersect with our daily lives, affecting everything from our freedom of speech to our right to privacy. Now for the good stuff, your rights. These are the protections that ensure you can live your life without undue interference from the government. They are the bedrock of our democracy, giving us the freedom to express ourselves, practice our beliefs, and live without fear of arbitrary actions by the state. The Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, outlines all the things the government can't do to you, like tell you what to say, what to believe, or make you quarter soldiers in your house. Unless you're into that, no judgment. These amendments were designed to protect the individual from the overreach of government power, ensuring that personal freedoms are safeguarded. But here's the catch. Not all rights are created equal. Some rights are considered more fundamental than others, and the courts have developed different standards to evaluate laws that might infringe upon these rights. When evaluating laws, courts use different levels of scrutiny. This means that some laws are more easily upheld than others, depending on the right in question and the government's interest in regulating that right. Think of it like a video game. The higher the level, the harder it is for the government to win. At the highest level, strict scrutiny, the government must show that its action is necessary to achieve a compelling interest and that it has chosen the least restrictive means to achieve that interest. Fundamental rights like freedom of speech and religion get strict scrutiny, which means the government better have a damn good reason for restricting them. These rights are considered essential to the functioning of a free society, and any attempt to limit them is met with the highest level of judicial skepticism. Other rights, like the right to equal protection, are subject to different levels of review, depending on the specific issue. For example, laws that discriminate based on race are subject to strict scrutiny, while those that discriminate based on gender are subject to intermediate scrutiny, which is a somewhat less rigorous standard. Landmark cases like Roe v. Wade, abortion rights, and Obergefell vs. Hodges, same-sex marriage, have shaped the landscape of individual rights, setting important precedents that continue to influence legal interpretations and public policy. These cases highlight the ongoing struggle to balance individual freedoms with societal interests, and they underscore the importance of the judiciary in protecting our rights. The decisions in these cases were not just about the specific issues at hand, but about the broader principles of liberty and equality that underpin our constitutional system. But the fight for equality and justice continues. Every generation faces its own challenges and must work to ensure that the rights enshrined in the Constitution are fully realized for all people. After all, the Constitution may be the law of the land, but it's up to us to make sure it lives up to its ideals. It's a living document, meant to evolve with the times, and it's our responsibility to advocate for the rights and freedoms it promises. Whether through voting, activism, or simply staying informed, we all have a role to play in this ongoing journey toward a more just and equitable society.